Yes guys, welcome back to another video. Welcome to the George Benson Football Channel for some Saturday Chelsea FC news to have with your morning coffee, your morning orange juice, or if you're like me, we're going clean, we're going for the water. Well, I say that, I'm actually going out this afternoon. We're allowed
to party again in Bali now.
It's been a while, but you still have to give your phone in because apparently you can't show that you're having a good time. Regardless, I hope you guys are having a good weekend. I hope you've all had a good week. And it does mean that we are only 7 days away from Chelsea kicking ball again in the Premier League. We've got Leicester in the early kickoff next weekend. And if you want to be up to date with all of the latest Chelsea news, build up to the Leicester game, match reviews, all of that stuff, then be sure to subscribe to GBFC, turn on bell notifications so that you never miss a video. And today, I've got 5 different stories for you all today. There are 4, really, but I'm trying to start now as it gets towards transfer season. I'm starting to look at individual stories and think about what that action would do to cause a reaction for Chelsea to either sell or buy certain players as a result of the concrete news that we understand and the concrete news that comes through in the Chelsea footballing stratosphere. So, today we're going to be talking Hakim Ziyech. We're going to be talking Eden Hazard returns again, maybe as a result of the Hakim Ziyech potential departure. We're going to be talking managers, not just Thomas Tuchel, but a former Chelsea manager today who is in the news. And we're also going to be discussing Jorginho's agent being at it again and what that could potentially mean for Chelsea in the midfielder transfer market. But we begin, first of all, by giving a congratulations to our wonderful Champions League winning manager. Thomas Tuchel has been given an individual award, which we know he isn't really one to take individual awards too seriously, which I think is great. It's all about the team. But Thomas Tuchel has won the October Premier League Manager of the Month. Let's just put it in a more blunt tone, in a different kind of manner. If he didn't win it, then we can 101% confirm the Premier League's agenda against Chelsea Football Club. Thomas Tuchel's Chelsea played for 1-4, including a 7-0 win. Only 1 goal conceded during that time as well in the 3-1 home victory against Ralph Hasenhüttl's Southampton. Thomas Tuchel is Premier League Manager of the Month. Congratulations to him. November started with a draw, but we've got some big fixtures this month in the Premier League. Leicester, Manchester United, and I think we got West Ham, that maybe that's the beginning of December, but I think it is the end of this month, or it's at least, it's the beginning of December, I think. I can't bloody remember, okay? It's Saturday morning, I'm tired. But we move into the second piece of managerial news, and it is related to former Chelsea manager Frank Lampard. I want to talk about Lamps a little bit today because it's kind of one of those where when he left, I made a video basically saying how disappointed I was, how I thought Chelsea got it wrong, and just like anybody who made a comment saying we shouldn't have sacked Frank at the time in which we sacked Frank Lampard, what we got to remember in football is that as fans, on the trajectory and on the whole, we're incredibly reactionary, which is the nature of the beast. You know, football is something that is always going on, unless there's a virus that takes it away from us. But you play a game on a Wednesday, you play on a Saturday. It keeps on repeating, especially when your club is in European competition. So when Frank Lampard was sacked, Thomas Tuchel came in, and let's be real, nobody could have really foreshadowed at the moment that Chelsea appointed Thomas Tuchel that the turnaround that we've had, becoming European champions, finishing top 4, comfortable, and, well, it wasn't really the most comfortable, but it was comfortable enough. We did it, and we won the Champions League, so it didn't matter regardless. Frank Lampard did a great job, in my opinion, at Chelsea. I will always say that, and any opportunity I have to actually just throw that out there here on GBFC, I will always do so. And for Frank Lampard, he was my favourite ever Chelsea player. You guys already know that. And when I see him being linked with certain jobs, including the Norwich City job, which it looked as though on about Wednesday this week that Frank Lampard was odds on set to become the Norwich City manager. And all of a sudden, it collapsed. Frank Lampard didn't sign for Norwich City. There were parts of the deal missing in terms of what the vision was from Norwich, how they planned to move forward. Frank wasn't happy with it. He didn't take the job. My personal opinion on this, before we get into how this is actually good news for Chelsea Football Club, which is why I wanted to address it in today's video, I think it would have been good for Frank because Norwich right now, they're bottom of the table, even though they won their last game. They've made a woeful start to the season, and the expectation, I think pretty much from all Norwich fans, is we're going down. So if Frank Lampard comes in and they go down, it can't really be considered a failure. And some people consider Lampard's first job at Chelsea, well, Derby success, Chelsea failure. I disagree with that entirely, but if Lampard was to take Norwich down, it wouldn't be a failure if he brings them straight back up. I actually thought it would be a good job for Frank, but the reason this is good news for Chelsea is that Frank Lampard wanted Joe Edwards as part of his coaching staff. Now, if you're not entirely sure... Big ass sneeze. If you're not entirely sure who Joe Edwards is, or you're not familiar with any of the Chelsea personnel that are not first team players, Joe Edwards has basically been the man who has been an incredible bridge for the academy in the last couple of years. Joe Edwards' presence from the Chelsea academy with the youth teams and the knowledge that he can give about certain players to give to the likes of Frank Lampard, to Thomas Tuchel now. Frank Lampard wanted him as part of the team. And I think if Joe Edwards would have gone with Frank Lampard, which they had a very good relationship, I expect Joe Edwards might have actually been very, very keen on joining Frank Lampard at Norwich, despite the connection he's got at Chelsea. Maybe that was the sticking point in Lampard not taking the deal. We are not sure at this point, but it's big, big news for those academy players. When we look at the youngsters, when we think about what happened in the summer with selling a lot of our young players, a lot of people were disappointed. A lot of people thought, should we be spending all of this money on European talent when we've got so many good academy boys? Now, if Joe Edwards would have gone, it certainly would have made that bridge between the academy and the Chelsea first team even more difficult to cross for some of those young players needing and wanting opportunities in the first team. So, Lampard not taking over at Norwich City can only really be seen as a blessing in disguise for Chelsea Football Club and our academy boys. We move into Jorginho. His bloody agent again has just been barking on like a rabid dog. I don't understand this, okay? I've spoken about this before on GBFC, but every other international break we hear, and yeah, move back to Napoli, it's possible. We can't rule it out, as they always say, agents. They always use these cliche phrases that just absolutely dog me off as somebody who likes to look into Lexis semantics and all of that stuff in the world, not just in football. But again, Jorginho's agent is flirting with a move away from Chelsea, despite stating that Marina Granovskaya wants to offer Jorginho a new deal. Me personally, I love the idea of giving Jorginho a new deal. I think he's one of the more senior, charismatic personalities in the squad, has so much to offer on the football pitch, and I hope he stays. But it is always a bitter taste in the mouth, you know, if you're 100% backing Jorginho to stay and then you just keep seeing the same repetition from his agent over and over again, it tastes like a cold cup of tea, to be honest. You know, no one wants to take a sip of a good old cuppa and it's cold. It's not nice unless it's an iced tea. But even then, you wouldn't make English breakfast and put ice in it. And if you would, then, well, I'd love to know the recipe and if it tastes any good. Jorginho's agent, shut your mouth, mate. I've had enough of it. I'm tired of listening to it. But we move into the final story of the day, talking about Hakim Ziyech. It was big news that dropped yesterday afternoon saying that Hakim Ziyech wants to leave Chelsea. Now, you guys know that I am relatively selective with the journalists whose news I actually really read into as not gospel truths, because you can never get gospel truth in football until something is signed on the dotted line. Simon Phillips has reported that Hakim Ziyech, and again, I'm not saying that Simon Phillips broke this news because I've just seen it on Twitter and then I make these videos reacting to it. I'm not here saying this is the right source, this is the wrong source, this is where the credit should be. I saw it on Simon Phillips' Twitter, did a little bit of research. It's being reported in the Mirror in the UK as well that Hakim Ziyech, 28 years old, wants to leave Chelsea, and it could be as soon as January. Borussia Dortmund are reportedly one of the clubs interested in signing Hakim Ziyech. If it's January, it is likely to be a loan. Now, what does this say to me? Again, the Eden Hazard rumours, they don't go away. We spoke about it last week more on GBFC when I asked you guys on the community page, would you take Eden Hazard back at Chelsea? We know that Ancelotti has opened the door for Hazard to leave Real Madrid as soon as January. Now, if Hakim Ziyech leaves, and we've seen so far this season, we've not been blessed with no injuries, and in wide areas, we are still looking a bit thin. Hudson-Odoi is nailing down that left wing position. Pulisic, we got to see if the man can stay fit. So, does that open the door for a winger to potentially come in January if Hakim Ziyech is going to leave the club? I'm not surprised that Ziyech wants to leave. I know that people think I've got an agenda against Hakim Ziyech, that I just don't like him and I just want to slate him at any given opportunity. Not the case. I've made my point very clear. I don't think he delivers on a consistent enough basis, and he obviously isn't getting the same game time that at 28 years old, as a European semi-finalist with Ajax, Champions League winner with Chelsea, he would be liking to have. We know he's got talent. We know he's got ability. Is the Premier League a little step on a week-in, week-out basis too high for a player of Hakim Ziyech's technical ability? Maybe it is. Can he do the out-and-out wingers role? Maybe not. And I think that a move away at this moment in time is something that I fully understand. It's something I would fully respect. But the question is, if it is to happen in January, does this make the possibility or probability of a move for Eden Hazard or another winger slightly higher this January for Chelsea? I think we're in a position where if we're going to lose players in the January window, then I think that despite reluctance in the past to spend money in January, I think Chelsea will look at the opportunities available this season to win the Premier League and try and retain our Champions League trophy and think, well, we cannot afford to let this squad run thin, and we're going to need to sign players if players are going to depart and are looking to depart the club. And Hakim Ziyech's a senior player. If he wants to leave, if he does leave, I fully expect Chelsea to bring somebody in. I suggest Eden Hazard. Let me know if you have any alternative suggestions in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching this Chelsea news video today. I keep mentioning the tier list because it is coming, but when there's news, I've got to drop news. It's the international break and there's very rarely anything to talk about. So the fact that Chelsea are in the headlines, we're in the news for transfers in, transfers out, of course, need to document that here on GBFC for all of you. Thank you for watching. Have a great weekend. Come on, you Blues.